My name is Shade, an only child of my father. My mom, well, that is a story for another day. I live in a bustling city in Nigeria, where my father's apartment is home to a diverse group of tenants. There is Abe, a hardworking laundry guy with a quick smile. BC, a single mother with two rambunctious children. Chike, a university student studying engineering and tech. And Mama Kemi, the elderly woman who is like the block's wise and caring grandmother. Life here is vibrant and noisy, but one thing unites and divides us all: water. The city's frequent water shortages mean our shared water tank often runs dry, leading to tension among the tenants. One hot afternoon, the tank was empty again. "You are always bringing your cosmates who will end up using the whole of our water, Chike," BC accused. "That's not fair, BC," Chike replied, his voice laced with defensiveness. "I'm not the only one using water. What about Ade's laundry shop? He's always washing fabrics." Ade chuckled. "True, but I'm not the one with children splashing water everywhere." As the argument escalated, my dad, the landlord, tried to calm everyone, but it was clear something needed to change. One Saturday afternoon, Bisi's children, Tunde and Funke, were playing outside, laughing and splashing water from a bucket. Ade, who was working in his laundry shop, noticed the waste and gently scolded them. "Hey, hey, what are you doing? Water is scarce and you are wasting it." Tunde and Funke looked up, startled. Bisi, overhearing, rushed outside. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Ade is scolding my children for wasting water," Bisi said angrily. "I'm just trying to teach them to conserve water," Ade replied. The argument escalated until Mama Kemi stepped in, her calm presence diffusing the tension. "We need to ration the water," she suggested. "Everyone will have their turn to fetch water." For a while, this brought peace. My dad is a kind man, always looking out for the tenants. Every Sunday, he asked me to take fruits to Chike. "That boy works so hard," he would say. "Let's make sure he's eating properly." One Sunday, as I handed Chike a covered bowl, he invited me in. It was a small room cluttered with books, notes, and gadgets. As we sat down, he began to share stories from his childhood. He told me how he and his sisters used to wake up early to fetch water, only to return home at times empty handed. "We had to take turns," he said, a distant look in his eyes. "Sometimes it felt like the whole village was against us, but those struggles shaped me. It is why I chose engineering." I listened fascinated. There was something about the way Chike spoke. His voice carried a quiet determination. Then he told me about a project he was working on for school. "I'm using our compound as a case study," he said. "If it works, it could solve our water problem." I didn't know it then, but that conversation was the beginning of something I couldn't quite name. Chike wasn't just another tenant anymore. He was someone with a vision, someone who might change our lives. For a while, Mama Kemi's suggestion about rationing water brought peace to the compound. Each household had an assigned time to fetch water, and everyone seemed content. Well, almost everyone. One early morning, I was startled awake by the sound of someone moving outside. Curious, I peeked out of my window and saw Mama Kemi struggling with a bucket at the tap. It wasn't her turn to fetch water, and the sight of her breaking the rules surprised me. Before long, Ade, who had woken early to prepare for his workday, caught her in the act. Mama Kemi, it's not your turn, he said. His voice was a mix of disbelief and frustration. The elderly woman straightened her face. I am old, Ade. Do you expect me to wait until the afternoon when the sun is blazing hot? Their argument quickly escalated. Soon the entire compound was awake, drawn by the noise. BC emerged, followed by Chike and my dad, who rubbed his temples as if trying to ward off an impending headache. Enough! My dad finally shouted, silencing everyone. This water problem is tearing us apart. I have tried, even drilled a borehole last year, but it didn't yield enough water. If this continues, I have no choice but to evict everyone. I can't keep dealing with chaos. A heavy silence fell over the group. My dad's words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and for the first time, I saw fear in everyone's eye. It felt like the end of our little community. Then, Chike spoke up. I'm working on a project, he said, his voice steady but determined. I have been trying this compound and I have been studying it, and I think I have found a solution. All eyes turned to Chike as he stood in the middle of the crowd. Even my dad, who has been so close to giving up, seemed curious. What kind of solution? My dad asked. Chike cleared his throat. For my school projects, I am developing an app that uses satellite data and soil sensors to determine the best location to drill boreholes. I have been using this compound as my case study, and I believe I have found the right spot. BC noted. What can a university boy figure out that the expert couldn't? But Chike wasn't discouraged. The experts didn't have the right tools, he explained. This app combines data analysis with real-time soil studies. It's innovative and accurate. My dad frowned, deep in thoughts. We've spent a lot of money already on that failed borehole. I can't afford another disappointment. Then let me fund it, Chike offered. I'll find a way to cover the cost if you give me the chance to prove my project works. Everyone was stunned by Chike's boldness, but I could see the fire in his eyes. He believed in his ideas, and that belief was contagious. After a moment, my dad sighed. All right, Chike, I'll give you a chance. But if this doesn't work, there is nothing more I can do. As the crowd disappeared, I caught Chike's eye and gave him a small smile. I hope you know what you are doing, I said softly. He smiled back, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. I do. Trust me. And for some reason, I did. Over the next few weeks, the compound buzzed with activity. Chike worked tirelessly, setting up sensors and running simulations on his laptop. Sometimes I watch him from a distance, fascinated by his focus. Other times I'll bring him snacks or water, pretending it was my dad's idea. One day he called for a meeting. I found the solution. I found the spot, he announced. pointing to a patch of ground near the back of the building. The tenants murmured among themselves. Some were hopeful, others, like BC, were still skeptical. Are you sure about this? My dad asked. Chike nodded. I've triple checked the data. This is it. Reluctantly, my dad agreed to hire a drilling team. The tension in the compound was palpable as the drilling began. Everyone gathered around, watching and waiting. Hours passed and there was no sign of water. Doubts began to creep in, and I could see the worry on Chike's face. Then, just as the sun was beginning to set, we heard it, a gush of water bursting forth from the ground. The crowd erupted into cheers, and I saw something in Chike's eyes that I hadn't noticed before: pride and relief. And as water flowed freely into a new tank, I felt my admiration for Chike deepen. He had done it. He had saved not only our block, but that of our neighbors. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of our journey together. Chike was a shy guy with little time for anything outside academics and church. I decided to ask him for tutorials, hoping to spend more time with him. It worked. The tutorials became our excuse to talk about everything, from his dreams of building sustainable water solutions to my own aspiration. Slowly but surely, our bond grew together. Time flew by, and soon Chike was graduating. I was so proud of him. He had worked hard, and his efforts paid off when he landed a job with a top engineering firm in Lagos. His relocation was bittersweet. I was happy for him, but couldn't ignore the ache of knowing he'll be far away. Chike and I tried to stay in touch, but with his new job and my final year in school, our conversations became less frequent. Life was pulling us in different directions, and I couldn't help but feel the distance growing between us. 3 years later, I graduated with a degree in environmental science. It was a proud moment for me and my dad, but something felt missing. Chike wasn't there to celebrate with me. After graduation, I was posted to a rural community in northern Nigeria for my National Youth Service Corps assignments. It was a far cry from the city I knew, but I embraced the challenge. My NYSC posting exposed me to the struggles of rural communities without basic necessities. I worked with an environmental agency, conducting workshops and leading projects. It was fulfilling, but also eye-opening. Despite my busy schedule, I often thought of Chike. I wondered if he remembered our conversation about solving water scarcity, but his new life in Lagos, I hesitated to reach out. Though I tried to focus on my work, the distance between Chike and me felt more apparent than ever. I wondered if we would ever find our way back to the friendship we once shared. My NYC year became a time of growth for me. I learned to lead, to connect with people, and to find purpose in the work I was doing. Yet, a part of me still longed for something or someone more. As my service year came to an end, I found myself at a crossroads. I had grown in ways I never imagined, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that my story with Chike wasn't over yet. After NYSC, I went to Lagos in search of a job, unsure of my next steps. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon Chike's name on a post about water engineering innovations. The post mentioned his app had been used in another community To successfully site a borehole, my heart swelled with pride. I decided to reach out. My message was simple, congratulating him on his achievements. To my surprise, he responded almost immediately, expressing how much he had missed our conversations. We agreed to meet over the weekend, and I couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and nervousness. When we met, it was as if no time had passed. Chike talked about his project with the same passion I remembered, and I shared my experience in the rural community. He was intrigued by the workshops I conducted and the projects I led. We discovered a shared vision for making sustainable water solutions accessible to undeserved communities. Chike suggested we collaborate, combining my environmental science knowledge with his technical expertise. It felt like a natural next step, and I was thrilled at the prospect of working together. Working closely with Chike felt exhilarating, but it also brought its challenges. Our professional synergy was undeniable, but our personal interactions were riddled with awkward pauses and moments of hesitation. Chike seemed hesitant to get too close, and I found myself second-guessing every conversation. One evening, after a particular successful community workshop, I casually brought up the memories of our shared childhood moment. Chike smiled but quickly changed the subject. I couldn't help but wonder if he was purposely keeping his distance, perhaps to focus on his career, or worry of mixing personal and professional relationships. As our project gained recognition, a prominent NGO invited us to apply for funding. Chike insisted on handling the application himself, assuring me he would credit my contributions. Though I trusted him, a nagging feeling crept in. What if he decided to move forward without me? My fears grew when Chike became less responsive to my calls and texts. Weeks passed before he finally shared the good news. We had secured the grant. He apologized for the lack of communication, citing the overwhelming workload. I wanted to believe him, but a part of me wondered if he saw me as merely a colleague. Chike and I continued to collaborate on the water project, which had gained recognition in my community and beyond. His expertise in technology and my knack for stakeholders engagement made us a strong team. Still, outside our work, he remained distant, keeping conversations strictly professional. I asked him over lunch another day, Chike, do you ever have time to breathe? It feels like you're always working. He looked up, surprised. I guess I don't know how to slow down, he admitted with a smile. I wanted to dig deeper, but he quickly changed the subject, leaving me with more questions than answers. Our project secured a substantial grant from an international NGO, allowing us to scale up our effort. We hosted community training sessions and deployed water solutions across several neighborhoods. The progress was accelerating, but I couldn't ignore the growing distance between Chike and myself. One evening, as we wrapped up a training session, he said, I'm proud of what we've built here, Shade. You're a big part of why this is working. It was the first personal compliment he had given me in months. I thanked him, but his words felt guarded, as though he was holding something back. During one of my monthly visits to Dad, he drummed a bombshell. Shade, your mom reached out recently. He said, his tone hesitant. She wants to meet with you. I froze, unsure on how to respond. For years, I had buried the pain of her absence, and now she was resurfacing. Why now? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. My dad sighed. I think she regrets leaving. People make mistakes, Shade.
Maybe it's time to hear her side of the story. His words left me conflicted. Could I face this woman who had abandoned us, or was it too late to mend broken ties? Work with Chike continued, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was pulling away emotionally. While we achieved professional milestones together, our personal conversation goes past. I often caught him lost in thought, as though he was carrying a burden he wouldn't share. One evening after a long day, I asked, Chike, are you okay? He hesitated before replying, just a lot on my mind, Shadi. It's nothing to worry about. His response felt like a wall, and I began to wonder if he saw me only as a colleague. A year passed. Life pulled me further from the world I once knew. After settling into my career, I left the comfort of my father's home, determined to carve out my own path.
Yet, no matter how far I went, he remained my anchor. I visited him once a month, but those visits often came with subtle reminders. She wants to see you, Shadi, he would say, referring to my mother. It was always the same tone, a mix of hope and weariness. I never responded with more than a shrug or a change of subject. How could I explain to him that some wounds weren't ready to heal, no matter how many years had passed? Work became my escape, a place where I could focus on something other than my tangled emotions. Chiki and I had been assigned up to a major project, and while we worked well as a team, something between us had shifted. It was distant, almost professional in our interactions. One evening, after yet another day of cold professionalism, I couldn't hold back anymore. Chiki, what's going on? I asked, catching him as he packed up his things. You've been acting up. He looked at me. What is it? What do you want from me? The sharpness of his tone stung me, but it also left me speechless. For once, I didn't have an answer. Maybe I was overthinking things. He never had said he loved me. It's all my imagination. I should keep things professional. I replayed that moment over and over, his irritation cutting deeper than I cared to admit. Chike had always been a mystery, but this time it felt personal. I wanted to tell myself it didn't matter, that work was the only connection we had. But my heart wouldn't let me believe that. The next day, I resolved to putting my feelings aside and focus on the project. If he wanted to keep things strictly professional, so be it. But the more I tried to ignore the tension, the heavier it seemed to weigh on both of us. I couldn't hold it anymore. Again, I decided to confront him. Chike, what is wrong? Shade, I admire you a lot, more than I can put into words. But I'm not sure I'm ready for anything more than this partnership. His words were a blow, but I nodded, masking my disappointment. In the midst of this emotional chaos, my mother reached out again. This time, she sent a message, pouring her heart out in words I wasn't ready to hear. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. Sitting across from her at the cafe, I listened as she apologized for years of absence. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, she said. Her voice was trembling. But I'm trying, Shadi. I just want a chance to make things right. I wanted to believe her, but the walls I had built around my heart were too strong. It's not that simple, I told her. You can't just come back and expect everything to be okay. You chose your career over your family. Her tears made my chest ache, but I refused to let them soften me. Chike and I returned from the conference with a renewed sense of purpose for our work, but his words lingered in my heart. He had drawn a clear line between us. Yet there were moments when he seemed blurred to it. His lingering glances and occasional smiles suggested a deeper connection, but his words the last time we tried to talk about our relationship was opposite. For me, I was beginning to get over him. My mom's plea for forgiveness was what I was beginning to ponder on. For 2 months, I never visited my dad. My decision to focus on my work strained my relationship with my dad. He was hot that I hadn't fully embraced my mother's attempt to reconcile. He called one day and said, "Shade, holding on to anger won't heal anything. She is trying and she regrets her mistakes." The tension with Chike came to a head one evening when he called me unexpectedly. "We need to talk," he said, his voice unusually serious. When we met, he wasted no time getting to the point. "Shade, I've been avoiding this because I didn't want to complicate things," he said. "Complicate what?" I interrupted, my frustration bubbling over. "You have pushed me away, and I don't understand why." He sighed. "I care about you, Shade, but I didn't know how to say it without risking what we have. After all the hurtful things I had said the last time." For a while, I threw myself into work, needing the distraction. Chike's admission left me more confused than ever, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to confront what it meant for us. Meanwhile, my father's gentle reminders about my mother continued to echo in my mind. "Do not let anger close the door to something beautiful," he would say during my last visit. But what if letting her again only brought more pain? One night at a networking event, I saw Chike across the room with a woman I didn't recognize. Something about the way they talked, her hand on his arm, his easy laughter set my heart racing. I forced myself to approach him. "Chike," I said, keeping my voice calm. He turned, surprise flashing in his eyes. "Shade, I didn't expect to see you here." The woman excused herself, and I wasted no time. "We need to talk," he said, my tone leaving no room for argument. When we finally talked, I laid everything out. "Chike, I can't keep guessing where I stand with you. Either we are something or we are not. I need to know." He hesitated, then he spoke. "You are right. I've been a coward about this. I've been afraid of losing you if it didn't work out. But Shade, I want us to try to be something real." Hearing those words felt like a weight lifting off my chest. For the first time, I felt like we were on the same page, even if the road ahead was still uncertain. The journey wasn't easy. My relationship with my mother remained fragile, but a health scare with my father forced me to reevaluate what truly mattered. Slowly, I let her back into my life, though the process was something but smooth. Despite the progress Chike and I had made, there was still a lingering distance between us. He had admitted that he cared about me, but there was something deeper, something he wasn't ready to share. One evening, I asked, "Chike, you've been acting strangely again. You've pulled away again. I don't know why. If you care about me, why do you keep shutting me out?" "Shade, I'm afraid." "Afraid?"
If I let myself be with you, I might lose you in the end and also lose this partnership where we get to be together. I've seen it happen before. People who love each other but can't make it work. Immediately, my mom and my dad's situation came to mind. That was it. His confession left me speechless. I could feel the vulnerability in his voice, but it also hurt. Chike, I said softly, I'm not going anywhere unless we both choose to walk away. He looked at me, his eyes filled with uncertainty but also with hope. It was a moment of clarity for both of us. Our fears were real, but our feelings were real too. As much as I had tried to avoid it, my mother's reappearance would still be a burden that I carried. I had come to terms with the fact that her absence had scared me, but I couldn't carry that weight forever. Chike could sense that my unresolved feelings for my mother was still holding me back. One evening, while we were working late on a project, he gently brought it up. You have been avoiding her for years, Shadi. I know it's painful, but maybe forgiveness is something you can give to heal yourself. Not for her, but for you. His words hit me hard. I knew he was right, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. But what if it doesn't change anything? I asked myself. It doesn't matter, Chike said, because holding on to the anger will only keep you stuck in the past. You deserve peace, Shade. That night, I lay awake, reflecting on his words. Slowly, I started to understand that forgiving her didn't mean forgetting. It didn't ever mean accepting everything she had done. It meant releasing myself from the chains of anger that had kept me in prison for so long. When I finally reached out to my mother, it wasn't easy, but for the first time in years, I heard her voice without the bitter edge of resentment. I'm sorry, she said, for everything. I know it's too late, but I want to try. I had no grand speeches to give her, just a quiet understanding that forgiveness was something I was willing to give. It didn't change the past, but it gave me the freedom to move forward. As the month went by, Chiki and I grew closer, and that tension between us seemed to fade away. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, we sat on the balcony of my apartment. The city's lights twinkled below us, and there was a rare stillness in the air. Sade, Chike said, his voice low, I've been thinking about us and what we have. I don't want to waste time anymore. I looked at him, confused. What are you saying? He turned to face me, his eyes serious, yet warm. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I know we've been through a lot of ups and downs, but you make me better. Shade. Shade, will you marry me? For a moment, everything stood still. My heart raced, my mind overwhelmed by the flood of emotions. I had never imagined that he would ask me in such a simple, heartfelt way. With tears brimming in my eyes, I nodded, yes, Chike, yes, I will. It wasn't long before Chike and I began to make the next steps in our relationship. I met his family, his parents, and siblings who welcomed me with open arms. They were warm and kind, and I could see where Chike's humility and generosity came from. His mother, a strong and lovely woman, pulled me into an embrace when we first met. Chike is a good man, Shade. He's been through a lot, but he will make you happy. Chike's siblings were just as wonderful, and we spent hours talking and laughing together. It felt like I was becoming a part of something bigger, something I'd always longed for. but never had. Chike finally met my father again, and sure, he saw my mom too. Their conversation felt relaxed. My father, who had always respected Chike for solving our water problem with the borehole, was genuinely happy with our relationship. He could see how much Chike had grown, both personally and professionally, and he was proud of the man he had become. The bond between them had strengthened over time, and now my father's approval was clear. He was more than happy with the path we are on and supported us fully as we moved forward together. Planning the wedding was a whirlwind of excitement and nerves. We decided to hold it in my hometown, surrounded by the people I loved most. My dad was thrilled, and my mom was ever happy. She really acted as a mother should. She helped in organizing the caterers and a lot of other things. I'm thankful I forgave my mom. Rebuilding our relationship wasn't easy, but it brought peace and allowed me to move forward. Now my mom and dad live together, having resolved their differences after both families met and everything was settled. It felt like the final step towards healing. Chike and I spent months organizing every detail of our white wedding. The day of the wedding arrived, and the entire apartment block came together in support of us. BC, Ade, and Mama Kemi all made the trip to my hometown. They were there from the early morning, helping with last minute preparation and offering their love and support. My heart swelled as I looked around the room and saw the faces of people who had been with me through everything. People who had been there during the tough times, who were now witnessing the new chapter in my life. When I walked down the aisle, my father at my side, I saw Chike waiting at the altar, looking at me as handsome as ever, with a nervous smile on his face. Our eyes locked, and for a moment I forgot everything. At that moment, it was just us. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with laughter, tears, and joy. When we exchanged vows, I knew without a doubt that this was where I was meant to be. The reception was a grand celebration with music, dancing, and delicious food. Everyone who mattered was there. The tenants from the apartment block were all in attendance. Ade, who is now married and lives in his own apartment. BC, whose children are now in boarding school and are almost finishing their studies. And Mama Kemi, who just returned from abroad, went to see her children who live over there. They all came for my wedding. These people have been with me through thick and thin, and it felt right to have them by our side as we embarked on this new journey. As Chike and I left the reception, hand in hand, I knew our journey together was just the beginning. We had faced so many obstacles, from water shortages to emotional turmoil, but through it all, we had grown stronger. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: we would face it together. And with Chike by my side, I felt ready for whatever came next. As we drove away, I glanced at him and smiled. We've come a long way, haven't we? Chike smiled back, squeezing my hand. We have, and we are just getting started.